Okay, we are ready to begin the City Council special meeting on Tuesday, January 7th, 2025 at 4:30 p.m. Happy New Year, everybody. We've got everybody present and accounted for. And before we break into executive session, if you'll join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Thanks, Jesse. All right, on to item number 3, executive session. The City Council will recess its open meeting and reconvene in closed session. 3A, pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, personnel matters, discussion regarding the appointment, employment, evaluation, and/or duties of a new city manager, including but not limited to the review of applicants for the city manager position, and other matters related to the search for and appointment of a new city manager. The City Council will reconvene in a regular session upon conclusion of executive session. And Council, the way, and for anybody watching at home, the way we're going to work this afternoon is break in executive session and then complete those duties. And when we come back out here, Todd, as the Mayor Pro Tem, is going to run the rest of the show, as I've got about a 2-hour window or so before I'll need to be up and around and don't want to be distracting with the walker and whatnot. So Todd's going to be in full and rare form afterwards. So, all right. And with that, we will recess into executive session at 4:32 p.m. Thanks.
No comment, though, just on. Okay.
Okay, it's 6:05. We're going to call the regular meeting back into session at the conclusion of executive session. We don't have anything to report, I believe, from executive session. So we're going to continue on with, item number 4, the citizens' comment period. You've got 30 minutes in total. Everybody's got 3 minutes to speak. Did anybody sign up? Okay, we had nobody sign up, so we're going to move on from number 4 all the way down to number 5, the consent agenda. Does anybody have any items that they would like to remove from the consent agenda? I don't hear of anything. All right, so with the consent agenda, do I have a move to approve it?
Move to approve the consent agenda?
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Perfect. let's see, that's 5. I'm trying not to go too fast here, but it's not all military faster, funnier, but we'll see what we can do. Okay, staff reports. We'll start with the city manager monthly activity report. Nancy, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Arvidson.
Sort of weird to see me sitting here, isn't it?
Yes. We have one thank you to review. Richard Holloway had a situation with, had a water problem at his home. He contacted the water department, and Ruben and one of the water department representatives arrived at his residence and assisted him with his problem. And he wants to extend his sincere thanks to both of them for their timely response and dedication to helping him, and it was much appreciated. He further states it is a pleasure to live in Garden Ridge with the support of such dedicated employees. And I cannot believe that we don't have any employee anniversaries to acknowledge this month. In your packet, you will also see the 2025 proposed bulk dumpster schedule. And the only other thing that I wanted to announce is, or state, is that we had a great tree lighting event. Both Santa and the Grinch were hits. The next first Friday is February the 7th, Paul Davis Park. Follow our social media and webpage, and you can find out more about the activities that will be happening at First Friday. And I wanted to let you know that the police department, public works department, and admin department are ready for whatever the weather brings us in the next few days. They are prepared, and if there is anything significant, I will make sure that each one of y'all is kept abreast of what is going on. But we are ready for whatever the weather brings to us. And that's all I have to report.
Okay, thanks, Nancy. Council,
You're
you
welcome.
have any questions?
No, sir.
Looking left and right. Perfect. Okay, then we'll move on to Robin with the finance report.
Hello, good evening. I do not have much to report. We did have our audit last month, and I am anticipating to be receiving our draft report soon. Hopefully, we will have the presentation on the February agenda. Right now, we have one utility operator position that we are looking to hire and 2 police officer positions that we are looking to hire. That's all I have.
Thanks, Robin. Council, any questions? Left and right? No questions. Okay, then we'll move on to the city secretary.
Bear with me. Still don't have new microphones yet, but I do have an update that about the microphones for the dais. The city manager signed the proposal back in December, and so we are just waiting for the equipment to arrive, and once it arrives, they will come and install it. And we are moving to a wireless microphone system, so it's a more robust system with a lot of additional features than what we currently have. So we might do a little training session on it when we get them as well. I think it would also be good for everyone to maybe have a training session with microphones. Besides that, we also had a tech come out yesterday to fix some of the other minor issues we were having in here, like that camera wasn't working, but now it's working again. Change some of the speaker sound settings so that hopefully it's louder in the audience, because we've had a lot of people say they aren't able to hear very well, especially when people have their backs facing the audience. So we'll see how that works out. Otherwise, the only things I wanted to highlight on my report is that we do have an upcoming holiday. City offices will be closed on Monday, January 20th. And then the election is just around the corner. We have an election on the first Saturday of May, so that's May 3rd. and the mayor, city council place 2, and city council place 3 will be on the ballot this year. The filing period begins Wednesday, January 15th, and ends Friday, February 14th. And candidate packets will be available on the city's website or at City Hall beginning Tuesday, January 14th, which is already next week. So don't forget, that is all I have.
Turn back on. Thanks, Marissa. Any questions from the rest of council? Man, we're jamming here. You guys are making it easy on me. Police Department monthly activity report. Chief, you're up.
Okay, see if we can confuse it a little for you. No, I'm just kidding. Most everything is in my report already. I want to highlight a few things. We are starting the CPA class, the Citizens Police Academy, next Tuesday will be the first day. We had asked the deadline to be last Friday or yesterday actually, for applications. I'll extend it a couple days. So if there's anybody left that wants to apply for the Citizen Police Academy, we will take applications until Thursday evening. Thursday, 5 o'clock, close of business. We've got to have time to get all the logistics set up with all the equipment and all that, so I can't do it after that. I think we have 25 right now, so try to increase it a little bit. Makes it a lot more fun, a lot more interaction with folks. Also, if you would please, this last month we found it's called PD Blues, or Blues PD online magazine. They're a nationwide online magazine, and we have published our PD openings on that magazine. It was $500 that I spent to have this run for a year. And it's full color, goes out, gets a lot of views. They do a lot of Texas police departments in there, so we went ahead and put all that information online and got it out online. In tandem with that, we do have an oral board tomorrow that we'll be conducting. If this gentleman gets through the oral board, he will be our first cadet position that we will be looking to fill. He's prior law enforcement, but he's been out for a few years, so and instead of trying to piecemeal all his classes back together, we're just going to send him through in a cadet position and have him get recertified through the state. That way it'd be a lot easier, and then he'll be up to date on everything. I'll keep you posted on that. We won't know until tomorrow afternoon after we get him in here and drill him for a little while. We're finishing up his background. Also, some of y'all may have been contacted, may not, but we've been running our tree trimming campaign for about 5 months now. So the beginning of December was the end of the 4 months that we voluntarily let everybody try to do this. We had it put out every possible avenue we could think of: social media, grapevine, water bills, all that. So in December we did start, we went out with vehicles and we did start checking residents and sent out several hundred letters to folks to get their trees trimmed up. The 15-foot above streets, it was a problem for emergency vehicles, and the fire chief was saying that it was causing some issues with his truck. So since then, we have been contacted by quite a few folks. They are coming into compliance now. So no citations have been issued. We don't plan on issuing any unless it's an extreme circumstance. Everybody's been very cooperative. We've been meeting with folks and talking to them on the phone, so that's going very well. It will probably see an increase for Stephen the next dumpster weekend, because there are quite a few tree limbs out there that need to be disposed of for all this stuff. There's been a lot of crews running the neighborhoods getting these folks up to date on this stuff. And the only other thing I want to bring up is get ready for next month is our racial profile report. I'll have it ready, and it will be, I'll have the report ready for you and give you all the data next month. That's all I've got.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chief. Anything from the other council members? Well, I'm going to add my own little plug for the Citizens Police Academy class, because I took it many, many years ago, and it kind of started my involvement with the city. Not that you're going to end up sitting up here if you go to that class, but it's a great class. It's a great way to get to know the police department, the police officers that are here, why they do the things that they do. Very good learning experience. Great way for me to get started involved in the city, and I highly recommend it for anybody, whether you've been here for 20 years, 50 years, or 1 year. Take the class. It's a good experience.
Thank you.
Turn the mic off. Okay, moving right along, then we're going to move on to Public Works monthly report. Steve, what do you got?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. For the month of December 2024, the Public Works Department completed 247 tasks, recorded .46 inches of rain at the Public Works yard, removed 600 pounds of trash from the right-of-ways, set up and worked the tree lighting event, began crack sealing on Parkview, started trimming back low-hanging trees owned by the city, repaired a leaking sink at the rental property. Bulk dumpsters will be back in January the 11th, 12th, 18th, and 19th. We currently have 2 dogs and no cats in our care. That's all I have for the Public Works portion of the report. The Utilities Department completed 250 tasks in December, pumped 50 acre-feet from the Edwards Aquifer with a year-to-date total of 402.83 acre-feet, with 13.40 acre-feet remaining at the end of the year. We pumped 8.29 acre-feet from the Trinity Aquifer with a year-to-date total of 469.59. All required distribution samples passed. Water loss was 3.6%. Customer portals were 866. Daily meter readability percentage is 99.69 for 1,641 assigned meters. 1 new leak adjustment, 4 approved leak adjustments, and 1 denied. And we reported no city leaks repaired during that time. That's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Any questions from anybody on council? No, sir. Looking left, looking right. All right, Jesse, hit it.
Okay, go back to public facilities, since you covered everything at one time. So I know Comal County is getting ready to repave Bat Cave Road, and I think you searched into it, and it was going to start in May. They already started grading some of that area, so I've been talking to Stephen about, be sure we get ready to pave our section of it at the same time. We're pretty close to it, so I know you're going to be looking at that. So I know people that drive that already contacted me, so we probably need to be prepared. May have to do a budget addendum, to cover that. I think you also said that you got another $200 on metal sales, right, for last month?
Correct.
That's great. That's coming in money there. Moving on to the water. Start off with just saying, Steve, you and your team did a great job in managing the well usage for both Edwards and Trinity, keeping it, below our, at least had some reserves there. I know our strategic's been to stay between 10 and 20 acre feet. You ended up at 13.4 to give us a little cushion in case there's some error in the calculations, and sure there was, because the Edwards Aquifer only showed up 12.4, so we're off by an acre foot, so that gives us a little cushion. I hope I corrected that you don't have that same problem this coming year when I did the spreadsheet update. But we've been on the Edwards Aquifer has had us at stage 4 since September 18th. A good portion of the year. We've lost actually 36% of the water allotted to us. So we started off the year at 653 acre feet, and when it come down to it, we lost 238 acre feet of that ability. So the Trinity is making up for the difference. On the good side, our residents are responding to the water restrictions. Consumption was down 15% for 2024 versus 2023. So over 50 million gallons of water less was used. On the flip side, and this is probably on Robin's side, is we pump 15% less water. That means we have 15% less in sales. So no income coming in from that at the same time. So that makes paying the bills a little more juggling. So there's pros and cons to it. We're trying to do our best to conserve water, but at the same time, we still got to pay the bills. So right now we're stage 4 still. So if we continue that, we only have 392 acre feet available this coming year if it stays at stage 4 the whole year. So really getting a third water supply source is going to be crucial to start really looking into, and not an emergency supply. We need to really look for a third supply to really withstand anything in the future. So that's going to be, I think, my high priority coming forward. So I know it's been Nancy's thing in the past, so it's just something we need to keep in front. Anyway, thanks again for everything you and your team did, Steve.
Nancy, you had something, or? Oh, okay, you looked like you had something to say. Okay, then we're going to continue moving on to item F, Library Monthly Report from our favorite librarian and birthday girl, Linda Crossland.
A predictably slow month for December because kids were out of school, people were traveling. We just had letters to Santa at the Christmas tree lighting, and then we did a Santa story time for the little ones who didn't get to see Santa at the Christmas tree lighting. We are beginning some new programs, of course, as the new year comes on. We're increasing Lego robotics to 3 times a week so we can include homeschooled kiddos, and we're going to do 2 science clubs a week. So I even have Dr. Kauser's going to come. We're going to do body systems. And I said I want to do hands-on activities, and I thought, I've got to be real careful how I say that. Bodies, hands-on. So it's things like take a walk with a blood cell through the heart, things that they will really see and learn from. I have Dr. Kauser who's going to bring in some microscopes, and we're going to look at blood cells, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. Councilman Valdez, I don't know if it matters, but we're having a gardening class on xeriscaping this month on the 16th. We might need to repeat that this summer if things get more desperate.
That is true. I already passed that on to the Water Commission.
Yes, he says you can still have a green lawn. It doesn't have to be all rocks. We're going to see. This year, I want to wish all of you, may you all and the city of Garden Ridge experience 12 months of love, 52 weeks of joy, 8,760 hours of peace, 525,600 minutes of kindness, and 31,536 seconds of blessing, and an innumerable amount of reasons to be grateful. Oh, and books, lots and lots of books. So as we're bringing the first quarter of this century to a close, happy 2025.
Thank you, Linda. Council, any questions? Comments? None of the above. Thanks, Linda.
Okay.
We'll move right along on to the city engineer project status reports. Hank, you're up.
I really can't top those wishes. That was great. Good evening, Council, Mayor Pro Tem. I did want to highlight a couple of items from the report. FM 2252, right before Christmas, they did, CenterPoint did get their bores underneath FM 2252 done, so they have a short stretch left to do. They have not provided a time of completion for that yet, but it's really, really close to being done, so we're already preparing without a start date yet, but we're already preparing for it coming soon, basically, with the contractor. So we should be on top of that, and I hope by next council meeting I have a mobilization date. It should be coming pretty soon. For land development projects on the revival, we did get those comments out. Mr. Steinmetz helped with those, and those should be in the developer's court. And that's all I have for this past month.
Okay. Thanks, Hank. Any questions down here?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're jamming right along. Thanks. Okay, item number 8, city commissions. The Planning and Zoning Commission did not meet in December, and we're on a roll here. The Water Commission did not meet in December, so we're going to move right along to item number 9, approvals and authorizations, beginning with consulting agreement presentation by Jill Shackelford.
I've got some slides here. I'm Jill Shackelford. It's a pleasure to be here. My background is I developed a large limestone quarry in Buda, Hays County. I sold it in 2011, and I shared my bio. I don't know if y'all have my bio. I'll spare you all the details, but The long and the short of it is, I do consulting now for quarries and environmental groups across the state. I was operating on the Barton Springs segment of the Edwards Aquifer, so like many of the quarries in your area, a really sensitive area, and my quarry was highly contested. And so I understand your residents' feeling of intrusion. I put people in that position myself by opening a quarry very close to a neighborhood. And so after a lot of legislation and back and forth, about my site, I developed a relationship with my opposition by doing a quarry advisory council and just got us all at the table and really did some really unique things that we'll go through here in a second. And I was able to, really develop some neat things that I think really would help this area. As a matter of fact, you've got a lot of clustered quarries right over the aquifer. In particular, a couple of highways that I've been down recently and roads in the area that are really dusty. I think, a lot of the quarries can do better. And there's things that are applicable to some quarries that aren't applicable to others. And so it's kind of a process, but I just want to share a few things with you today and tell you a little bit about my background. And then given the interest of time, let you ask me any questions. I sold my company in 2011, and I currently do expert witness testimony and consulting with both environmental groups and quarries across the state, with a particular emphasis on best management practices, or what's known as BMPs, and then also legislation review. So we'll start this. So a little bit about this. And so this first slide is something I did at my quarry to help eliminate dust. We covered all our conveyors. It's a really cool system of just easy, mitigating airborne particulate matter, which you can see in your trees on a lot of your roads here and in roadways and things like that. So, covered conveyors are a great BMP that I highly recommend. I consult all my clients on those across the state. And go to the next one. This is a picture of my quarry. Again, it was down in Buda, just off FM 967, right next to Ruby Ranch. You can see the covered conveyors in the picture. We also put our rock crusher in a building for noise and dust mitigation. We had a dry plant. Given the need for groundwater in the area, I researched technology out of Europe, brought it to Texas, and implemented what's really a dry classification system. And we didn't use water anymore. We used these little mini vacuum cleaners all across the plant that would suck the dust off. Because these quarries here in your district, they have to meet TxDOT or city specs. You don't want them putting a non-spec material on I-35 and then it fails and there's a fatality. And so often that material is washed with groundwater. And as we know, one of y'all mentioned earlier, the Edwards in pretty dire straits right now. It's starting off its lowest level ever. So I was in the same position there. And so we implemented dry technology where we sucked the dust off the aggregate, and it still got as clean as if it was washed. And so this is just a picture of that facility. Well, one of the things we did too is, and I noticed this driving around your district today, just reserving as much vegetation and trees as you can within the quarry site. Even up next to the highway, I noticed a lot of stripping's been done. Simple planting and native vegetation going back in there would control a lot of dust. And then just all along their sites too with berms and vegetation, it's just an easy dust control. I feel like if I can do it, certainly, these large companies can do it. Probably most of your sites have fuel containment centers because they're required to have a water pollution abatement plan. And, we don't want spills going directly into the aquifer or the groundwater. So just a nice contained fuel containment center is always a good best management practice for operators in your area. Wide haul roads are always great. Some of these haul roads I noticed are paved, some are not. That certainly helps with dust. Tracking out onto the highway in certain areas, and then just leaving the wide haul roads too for safety is really important for these quarries. And then I want to talk about the stakeholders. I mentioned, I had the mindset, I'm a I leased a cattle ranch. I've got plenty of land. There's plenty of buffer. You know, I shouldn't bother anybody, and I really underestimated the public's expectations and understandings of a rock quarry. So I had organized opposition. They picketed my site. They filed legislation. You name it. It was a really contentious situation for a while. And so, you know, we felt the need to sit down with our stakeholders. And I think you've got a lot of stakeholders in the area, and I totally understand their feelings from the fact that I put people in this same position. And so I think there's a lot of education that you could benefit from by understanding the operator, understanding the quarries, and then the concerned citizens and the concerns that you have yourself if you do. This is a map of all of the operators in Comal County that are registered with the Mine Safety Health Administration that are operating over the Edwards Aquifer. I think there's 13 of them. I just put this together earlier to kind of give a perspective of what you're looking at or what I'm looking at for you guys. So, you know, they're clustered kind of in an area, and to their defense, that's where the aggregate is. You know, we can't really pick and choose where that aggregate's deposited, so they've got to mine it where it is deposited, and y'all are growing like crazy, so there's definitely a need. I just feel like that they can do a better job, most of them. You've got some good operators for sure in your district. You know, I've been working with Martin Marietta. We're doing a quarry advisory council up in Georgetown in Williamson County. And then I also consult with the Great Springs Trail you might be familiar with that's coming through this district. I am their consultant to approach quarries and operators that they're going to encounter that they might need an easement or, you know, something for. But it all comes back to, you know, balancing the mining operators or concrete batch plants, whatever they are, you know, really just trying to go above and beyond what's required by regulatory requirements and just doing some good housekeeping measures that I really think this community could benefit from. And so I was a little bit surprised at how many there were. There'll be more, I'm sure. And I wanted to mention that I'm really thankful you guys have that blasting ordinance. I was telling Lisa, I did some work for the city of Double Horn. They actually adopted your ordinance because they had a large quarry move in from New York who just thought they could buy a ranch in Texas and, you know, open a quarry, and then they hit this huge environmental hurdle. And so one of the things we did was get y'all's ordinance actually adopted for city of Double Horn, and that was cool. I think y'all got a great ordinance. I don't think people should blast on Christmas Day or Sunday when church is going on or whatever. And so that was really impressive to me that y'all have already done that. I think there's some additional things you can do. I'm sure, you know, everyone benefits from the operators economically. I'll be the first to tell you I made my whole career in mining and it was lucrative, but there's good things you can do above and beyond what's required that can really, really help mitigate dust, noise, air pollution, you know, all of the above. So with that, I don't want to take up much more of your time. I'd like, if you want to ask me some questions, you can. But I look forward to hopefully work with you guys and, you know, understand the position you're in regarding this matter.
Let me just jump in real quick. Just wanted to give you a little bit of history. Jill Shackelford was actually recommended to us at the very first meeting we had, Nancy, when we had that whole group together as a consultant, because she knows the industry. You know, she knows what she's doing. And one of the things that I always tell people is I can see the problems, but I don't know the solutions, right? And I was happy, and I asked her to drive by the quarry down 2252 and 482 before she came here today. And, you know, in talking about it with her, she was shocked. I'm going to there's just more that they can do. It doesn't have to look that way. We don't have to have, there's always going to be dust, but we shouldn't have this much dust. And I mean, Jill is somebody that could really help us, address those issues. Like I said, I don't know how to address those issues, with the operators. That's not a part of my, knowledge base. I haven't worked in that industry, but I can tell you what the problems are, and we hear about them all the time. The dust, the trucks, the rocks, all of those things. So I think it would be really helpful to have somebody that had, that specific subject matter expertise, to advise the city.
Well, I appreciate that, Lisa. And one of the things we also did, I noticed you got a lot of schools next to these quarries. You know, we held our trucks during the school zone hours. That was pretty outside of the box at the time, but once our, the trucking companies adapted to our schedule, it was fine. When those lights were flashing, we weren't hauling out. Things like that are a little bit outside the box that could really benefit you guys from. I did a recent Community Advisory Council with Kerrville. It was Kerr County and the city of Kerrville I worked with. And it was it was more of a contentious situation. They had a lot of upset neighbors and elected officials and then a whole bunch of operators. These were sand and gravel on the river, but we brought everyone together at the table and implemented actually a guidance document for some of these ideas that really have helped. So.
And just to brag a little bit on Jill, TCEQ just put out their best management practices for quarries, for APOs, and part of the resource materials that they used was a document that Kerr County put together.
Okay, this item's on here for discussion, consideration, and/or action. I'm going to go around the room, and I'm going to start with council, and I'll probably come back to Nancy if she's got any inputs. So, Brian, what's your thoughts?
Yeah.
What's your inputs?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you for being here, Jill. I got to say, yeah, you have a lot of great ideas, looking at some of the stuff that I saw on the PowerPoint. My concern, though, on this is, it sounds to me like this is something that's going to require the quarry reps to buy in and kind of sit down with us, because because again, like with Lisa, I'm not knowledgeable about a lot of these things as well. We really can't enforce these things. These are things that we're suggesting that they do, and I agree. I agree a lot of things you're saying with the pollution, the schools next door, the times, the trucks, all that. Yes, those are all things that I know the constituents have concerns about, and I do as well. But you're hired, and let's say you come up with all these great ideas, and they're great. But what do we do from there? I mean, to me, there's no regulation involved in that. It has to take the quarry to sit down and say, okay, we're gonna go ahead and comply. When I'm thinking is, wouldn't they sit down right now and want to comply now with this, rather than sitting down, you doing all this work, and then they come back and say, we're not going to do any of that? What's the ramifications on this? It sounds like we hire you, we pay all this money, but there's no guarantees they'll do any of these things. I mean, unless I'm wrong. I mean, that's why I'm bringing it up. So I don't know if you have to respond.
Great point. No, that's a great point. And, one of the things that's helpful is, for instance, I look at Heidelberg's new WPAP that was just issued, and there's some things in there that are really good best management practices. But you got to make sure they're being done. And that's one thing that's easy for me to identify. And then the second thing is, typically in my experience, a good operator usually goes above and beyond what's required by regulatory requirements. And when you approach them, one of the red flags, if they get defensive, they're usually probably not even doing what's required. And so I think you've got a good group here. I really do. I know most of them. And I would say, I really do believe that they're willing to do some things that aren't necessarily required by TCEQ or MSHA, but they know they're good housekeeping rules. And I just have to say, from history that I've worked with other cities and counties, the return has been well.
So, and to follow up on that, so I think you can agree too that this requires more of maybe community stakeholders as well as the quarry stakeholders, and as well as you, not just you doing this, because again, you can do all this or your company can do all this, but at the end of the day, it could be for nothing.
No, sure. I think it would require input from various stakeholders, including you guys, the community, residents, quarries, and really get a feel, or I think it help you come up with a plan to how to, get some of these things implemented, even without any regulatory authority.
Right, yeah, because I think one more thing is, because I think that there's been a kind of a misconception that you have a lot of great ideas, but that hiring you is going to stop what's happening, and it's not. And I think that's what you can agree with me on, that you have great ideas, but it's going to require the quarry and to agree to do these things, because there's no enforcement from our side to
Sure.
have them do this, right?
That's correct. And that's exactly what happened down in Kerr County. The county didn't have any authority to regulate the sand and gravel operators, but when we all got together and came up with a good plan, and it became they adopted our policy there. And so now any new operator that comes in knows they they really need to apply with this BMPs that have been voluntarily recommended. And the existing operators were all very positive, and they implemented them,
Okay,
were applicable, you know.
okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I like some of the good points you made. I mean, I like the idea of the vacuum versus the water, because they use a lot of water over there. You know, I mean, that's one of my biggest issues there. We try to conserve water here.
Yes,
but they,
sir.
if I remember correctly, they have twice as much water permitted from the Edwards than we do, and they probably use 10 times more than that overall.
Groundwater is definitely an issue,
So
especially. on
water
the
is a big
city-
issue. That to
Yeah.
me would really do a lot for us with water. The covered conveyors, I mean, you brought some good ideas, the stopping truck traffic while driving to school and back and forth, some good ideas there. I do like the idea of, you know, having a Quarry Advisory Council. You know, we lost the commission, we got rid of that, but a council or committee or something like that, that we can get some residents involved besides us, you know.
Sure.
You know, and have a mixture of people's inputs like that. You know, we have a lot of, you know, people that are interested there that we can work with. But so what would be your deliverables, I guess, if we have a contract, you know?
Well, I think it'd be important for us to, you know, get some input from all of you and see really what your interests are. But, you know, my deliverables that have typically been was, first of all, we have a great, transparent, established communication between the operators, stakeholders, and council, or whoever it may be. And that has been so successful, because there's so many rumors, even with my own operation. It was just, there was everything in the world out there. And once I recognized that my stakeholders could have a great, safe place to communicate with me, we got rid of a lot of that stuff, which, you know, is way more productive. And so deliverables, I think, you know, could be good transparent communication between everyone. You know, maybe a voluntary BMP document like we did in Kerr County, and a council if y'all are interested. And then I, you know, really want to get your feedback on what you're anticipating. Are we going to stop quarries? No, you know, and that's not my goal. I made my whole career in a mining operation. I usually get 2 phone calls. Somebody wants to start a quarry, they want to shut one down. You know, so I get it.
Yeah, on both sides.
I totally get it. And so, you know, but it's been very successful. I did another one down in Dimmitt County. It was a big frack mining sand, and it was the same situation, just dust everywhere, and it was just a nightmare. And then we got just some good communication and some expectations, and cleaned up, and, you know, kind of opened that door.
Yeah. I mean, I've several comments in the past that, you know, there's been a change in the last few years about how things look out there. So something
Absolutely.
detracted, so something changed there. I know Nancy still has a good rapport with the operators there, because anytime we get a complaint from citizen, she still has a process to reach out to them, and they respond to it. They're very responsive to those, and they're honoring
They
blast,
should
you know.
be.
So
That's
we're
good.
keeping that going, even though we have the commission. So she's still a primary contact right now that we
Okay.
just need to expand. you know,
Yeah, I
type
think
thing.
outside of your blasting ordinance, there's some other areas that could
Yeah.
be incorporated.
Into that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's all I have.
Okay, Lisa, you want to go last, or you want to go now?
Or Kelly?
I'm going to go to Kelly. I'm going to kind of reserve mine till the end. I'm trying to formulate ideas here.
Okay. Yeah, so I agree. I mean, I agree that we need a consistent line of communication with the quarry. I feel once the Quarry Commission was abolished, that fell off the cliff.
It's
So,
hard.
you know, and I'm a huge proponent too of, you know, do what you do best, outsource the rest, right? And that's, you know, we have a great city, but there's certain things that we don't know how to handle that great yet, right? So, and this is one of them, I think. So I'm a huge proponent of that. And if I can read my writing here, I'll read my third point here. So I was a doctor in a former life, I think. And so, the Quarry Advisory Committee that you guys have brought up and talked about, or possible recreating the commission, I mean, is this something that part of your plan, would you be involving this committee and to where they have actual FaceTime with the quarries that,
Yeah, the ones I've done, I did a quarry advisory council with my quarry in the city, you know, stakeholders in Buda, and then I did one down in Carrizo Springs. That was a single operator in the stakeholders. The one in Kerrville was all the operators in the stakeholders. And so, you know, you can do either, but it does involve FaceTime meeting, you know, organized environment. It's not a screaming and shouting, arguing venue. It's a transparent communication. And there's tough conversations, but it's also very productive.
Yeah, and I don't know how many emails you guys have received or even face-to-face contact, but, you know, our citizens want something, and they're calling for it. And, you know, there can be health issues with, you know, I have a daughter now who's going to the middle school. I've never driven down that road at that time of the morning.
Yeah.
And I kind of stayed away from that area that time of the morning, and that is a mess. That is a
It
mess.
is.
And you see 100 feet in front of you some days.
For the
and
dust, yeah.
From so much dust and
Yeah.
trucks stalling on the road. I've had that happen twice. And then, so you've got this tiny 2-lane road where
Yeah.
you've got a stalled truck that's in a half of a ditch and the other half in the road. And I mean, that's just super dangerous. I mean, something as bad is going to happen that, you know,
Yeah.
I think of that traffic-wise, I think of it health-wise. So that's my 2 cents. I really think that we need to give this a shot. That's my opinion, so.
Well, thank you. And to your point about the trucks, you know, a lot of these quarries don't own their own trucks, and they're using third-party haulers, including myself, but you can't control what goes on your site and when it leaves your site, you know, the timing of that. And so I think there's a lot of room for improvement there.
I'm glad Kelly brought up the trucks, and I'm glad you mentioned them before. What about things like, obviously, they don't own the trucks, they're contracted, but these trucks are leaving with uncovered loads. We're seeing rocks, you know, everywhere. You're flying everywhere. We've got lots of windshield damage, those kinds of things. I mean, what could we do around
That's a great point.
that area?
You know, there's a tarping law, so those
Right.
trucks are supposed to be tarped. And number 2, you know, one of the things we did at my site, because people were so concerned, is we had license and wait, literally camping out at the gate, watching, issuing citations if there was speeding or, you know, any reckless driving or whatever, just things like that to get the attention, you know, and the truck drivers, some of them are just, you know, it's hard, but the majority of them, once they know the procedure, just like when I held the truck time during the school zone, once they adapted to that, it was fine, you know, and we do our best to mitigate any kind of accident. Things will happen, but, you know, whatever we can put in place to eliminate the risk, you know, especially next to these schools, I think is super important.
You know, one of the other things we've talked about too is that this becomes a win-win, right? You know, if we get some of these issues, you know, that are causing us a lot of angst, if we get those addressed, it causes the quarry operators less angst, right? You know, they don't get the constant complaints and, you know, the emails are, you know, all of those kinds of things that, you know, motion to returns, all of those kinds of things that go along with TCQ permitting. I mean, if
Right.
we, you know, if we can agree to some baseline, you know, baseline best management practices, I mean, it's a win for both of us. Yeah.
We need somebody in our corner that knows what they're doing.
Right.
Okay, I'm hearing what kind of sounds like a little bit of consensus here, and I'll throw my 15 cents in, or whatever the going rate is now. For me, it's probably half a penny, but it sounds to me like what we're trying to do is work with the quarries to come up with solutions, and I think that's the most crucial ingredient.
Yes.
Because we don't need to do you're gonna do this or else, because they're
No.
just gonna dig
That
their feet
doesn't
into the
work.
ground and nothing's gonna
Right.
happen. And that's always been one of my concerns with this. So this quarry advisory committee, council group, would that include members from the quarries?
Yes,
Concrete plant operators, things like that?
yes,
Okay.
as broad as you want to.
I
include
would
or-
like it to do that myself personally,
Absolutely.
because we need to sit down with them and go, here's our concerns. I have concerns. I almost got hit head-on by a quarry truck a couple of years ago who was illegally passing another quarry truck on a
yeah.
blind hill.
Yeah,
The truck driver and I had a conversation. That we
Good.
we won't repeat that conversation in public.
Right.
Anyway, because that became very adversarial, and I ended up
Yeah.
calling the sheriff's office, and they had sheriff's deputies out there throwing tickets and radar and everything else for the next month because of that. We don't want to be doing that. We want to work with these groups, not,
and I respect that.
you know, they have a business to run, they have the right to run the business. And quite frankly, that business is benefiting 2.5, 3 million people in the
Absolutely.
area. But we have to be able to work together. So it sounds like
Yes.
that's the idea behind this advisory council. I'm kind of catching myself up a little bit here because I missed a couple things, being on the road with work. Okay. I think we need to do it. That's my personal assessment. We do need an expert. Now, what we need is defined contract objectives, what we're trying to get out of it, all those kind of things. And that's when I'm going to look over to Nancy and go, okay, Nancy, give me your inputs. How do we go forward? What do we do? It sounds like everybody here wants to do something. So how do we go forward?
Okay. I think we need to, before we can delve into a contract situation, because that contract needs to define the scope of services, the deliverables, the cost. You know,
I agree.
all of those things that a contract controls. I think we need to define a little bit more specifically what council desires to see out of, perhaps it's the creation of the Quarry Advisory Council, and what are the objectives of that council, of that group. Now, also define, there's many aggregate operations beyond, you know, abutting the quarry that's within our city limits. And those operations are going to be outside of our city limits. And are they going to be contributing anything towards any fees for the consulting services? Or is this all going to be the city of Garden Ridge? I think those things.
How has it worked with your other commissions?
Yeah.
I think Kerr County paid.
Yes, Kerr County, I had a contract with Kerr County, and it was developed over a couple of meetings and, you know, brainstorming on really the scope of work, so we could identify that, and that worked out well. And the same thing with the city of Double Horn that I worked for, you know, so yeah.
So the operators have not contributed?
Those two I was working for municipalities. I have worked for quarry operators who wanted to set up their own quarry advisory council, and they paid me as a consultant.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so both. And, you know, I'm open to, you know, a do not exceed, or, you know, really flexible. I do this because I want the industry to do a better job, because when we have a bad operator, it makes us all look bad, and it drives me crazy, because I'm proud of my quarry, and I'm proud that I sold it. And I feel like if I could do that, everyone should be able to do it, these publicly owned companies and larger companies, and so that's kind of my mission.
My concern is that, you know, yes, half of our city limits is an active quarry, and they're a contributor to the dust and the traffic, but then they're supplying all of these other aggregate industries or aggregate whatever product they're producing, they're supplying many of those.
I think your
So-
biggest challenge is that the ones closest in here to the city that really have a lot of dust and just things that, probably some housekeeping things that could, and I do believe they're willing to work with you guys with the right approach and the right, you know, communication. And I've seen some of them, Heidelberg, Mark Marietta, a few of them with my Great Springs Trail Consulting, because we're going to come, that trail's coming through here, and so we want them to work with us on that side too, so it's kind of a, you know, not mutually exclusive. They're mining, but they can conserve land, or they can do other things that help.
So my thoughts are, is we need to come up, and the council needs to decide if we want to form I like the idea of the Quarry Advisory Council, because I do think our Quarry Commission in the past, they worked very hard with the quarry, and the result of it was that blasting ordinance.
That was great.
So I think I like the idea of the Quarry Advisory Council. the input of the citizens, as well as council, as well as the aggregate industry, but where do we want to begin with that? What kind of scope do we want to form for that? How far out do we extend this? How much money, if any, is the city willing to put into this effort?
Sure.
Those are my comments.
Right. But I also think we don't need to overcomplicate things. We know what the problems are, right? We know where the problems are mostly happening. We've got.
But we need to define.
Right, right. And I am sure that there was some structure around the Kerr County
Yes, and I'm happy to share that with
Advisory
y'all.
Council.
Yeah.
So that's probably already in place as something that we can look at. You know, and we have already budgeted, this money is already in the budget for this purpose. And it's something that we hear repeatedly from our citizens that we need to address. You know, so I am, you know, I am all for it. So I think I'm happy to work with Jill and Nancy on getting that
Yeah.
kind of structure together for an advisory council and discussing, you know, next steps there.
Yeah, I mean, it's organized. It's, you know, there's bylaws, it's legit. It's not just, you know, it's very organized, and it needs to be for the purpose of what we're trying to accomplish.
You know, the flip side, though, I don't want to ask Jill to keep doing, you know, work for us without paying her. You know, I mean, we'd be paying her to put this advisory committee together, right?
An outline so we can work, we can put the committee together, right? We get the resources, right? So, but then work with that committee after it gets started.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was going to say. Just, I'd like to see like the process, because.
Sure.
I mean, I know I know you've done this, but from somebody from like me that's never seen this before.
Sure.
What's the process? And that's kind of what I think a lot of
Yeah.
people are thinking right now,
Yeah.
so.
And I'll share quickly, the process for Kerr County it was mess when I first walked into it. And so we had business owners, HOA people, the operators, and then the electeds. And we really, first of all, our first couple of meetings were just identifying what are the key issues that everybody's upset about. And then we worked through those, you know, and got some good procedures in place for dealing with that. And I spent a lot of time talking to neighbors and operators and even mediating those conversations outside of the formal advisory council meeting. We met once a month or once a quarter in the beginning. And so once those were established, then it became routine. We have an agenda, you know, and there can be input from everyone, what they want on that agenda, and then we went through that very organized. And then there was follow-up, you know, minutes. It's very organized. And the good thing about it is, you know, when you have the quarries on there, if one shows up and one's not showing up, that's a problem, you know. And so they participated because it was a safe, transparent environment. It wasn't picketing like happened to me, where everybody wanted to shut me down. You know, this was more of we're trying to work with you, not kick you out of, you know, Comal County. So. But we also had someone, in addition to me, it was Judge Kelly, who was the administrator of the council, basically, and kept it in order, you know. And then I provided the speakers, my input, and then dealing with all the complaints and back and forth.
At some point, you were able to separate from them, so I'm
Yes.
assuming that when you separated from them, was the communication where it needed to be at, and then that's why you were able to
Yes.
separate?
Yeah,
Okay.
the goal is get me out of here as quickly as possible, and you can turn it on to, you know, someone internally that can run this. But yeah, I basically graduated out from it. They didn't need me anymore. They still call me for things, but it's really begins to run very operational, you know, pretty quickly. You've got some good people in these operators, I think, that'll sit down with y'all and us, and, you know, if I'm available, and do this.
Okay, so what it's sounding like to me, sitting here, is maybe we've got a two-part process that needs to go on. Step one is to come up with a basic, I don't know what the term, an entry-level contract
Yeah, and the scope of
to
work.
sit down with you, because we can't keep having you come in here and working for free. That's not how the world works.
All right.
But a simple scope of work to put together the Quarry Advisory Committee and how that's going to work with the city, work with Nancy and probably Lisa, put that together. Now, the unfortunate side of this is we're going to have to put a contract together on it and then have it approved by council before we start actually doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so is everybody good with that? I mean, I'm going to look at folks and go, I think we put that simple contract together. We are going to have to do it in the February meeting for approval before we execute, but that's only another month from now, so, and quite frankly, that's only 3 weeks from now, so can you guys put it together that quick? I mean, that's fairly fast to do a
No, it's-
contract to get it
the
approved with
contract-
legal.
The contract is bid at City Hall since September. We can get this done.
Okay, and maybe
Yeah.
need to be edited or something, so, okay, if we've got
Right,
that
right.
that sounds very simple to me, and it sounds like something we put together. Does everybody agree? I mean, legal, do we need a vote on this, or just consensus?
You can provide direction, but I think Nancy has input.
Okay,
Right. Now, the contract that was initially sent needs to have legal review. Now, I think we need to redefine that scope of services that is in that initial contract
Okay, so,
and
Right.
deliverables.
right. But
So-
since that original contact, Megan Santee has sent a contract we can use. And I've also forwarded you scope of services stuff. So I mean, I feel like we can get this done by the February meeting.
We will try our best to get it done by the February meeting. That's,
then if legal's good with it, then I guess by direction, you guys develop that and bring it to the February meeting, and hopefully we'll progress forward.
Sounds good.
I think we've got a solution, I hope. It kind of sounds like it across the board here, so consensus and all of us wanting to work together on this is a key ingredient as well, and especially dealing with something as important as the 800-pound gorilla that lives next door, that's the quarry. So, good. Does anybody else have any other inputs on it? Brian, you good? Okay. Jesse, good? Lisa, good? Okay, good.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, Jill.
thank you, Jill.
Moving right along, contract agreement between the City of Garden Ridge and the Retail Coach LLC. Nancy, you're up.
Okay. Megan Santee and Mr. Farmer from Retail Coach have put together a contract that's in your binder. This was a year's contract, if I'm correct. Total cost of $23,000. However, we only have $20,000 budgeted, so the remainder would have to come out of reserves. And of course, in our budget amendment, we would adjust it for the the correct expenditure amount. Scope of services is contained in here, as well as your deliverables schedule. Megan was perfectly fine with the contract. Mr. Farmer was fine with the contract, so. Are there any questions? I know y'all have had this. I know Kelly and Lisa both have worked with Mr. Farmer and talked with Mr. Farmer, so. Do y'all have any?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, what?
Where is it? I think it's page 22. Oh, yes, yes.
That's weird. That's odd. The light was on. Okay, yeah, so, Retail Coach was referred to us, by one of our, sister cities down the road, and I've reached out to other cities who have either worked with them or run across Retail Coach, and they have nothing but high praises for them. And you guys know my whole outlook on this. We're 15 years behind the 8 ball on this. We need to do something. There's a once again, do what you do best, outsource the rest, right? This is something that we're not experts at, and why not hire the experts for it? So, and I might have more after you guys speak, but that's I think I said my whole spiel last time, so.
Same. I mean, Kelly and I are both very supportive of this contract and the work that they could do for the city.
Okay. Jesse?
Well, I see the deliverables, and I see that they do analysis and do different things, and they tell you, but I don't feel like there's enough meat that we actually have something outcome and actually a business come in or anything like that. They recommend businesses and things like that, but see, I'm looking at the work I did as consulting work after I retired. I go in and analyze operations at a plant. I make my report and leave. I get paid big bucks, and it was up to them what to do with it. And that's why it feels like here, feels like that's what it feels like that they're doing. That they'll give us a report, here you go do it. Now, so if you can tell me something different than that, I would appreciate it. That we actually going to get something, because y'all talked about also talking with developers that actually develop business, centers and all that, and bring, actually build everything. So, see the difference in that. I don't know. Yeah.
Right. And I've done consulting my time
if you
too.
understand.
And there's a lot of there's more deliverables than even what is on here. I mean, first off, so there's the ISCS conference that's at the end of this month, and there's a lot of introductions that if I get to go to this.
Yeah.
No. If I get to go to this convention, there's a lot of contacts that, because of these guys, just because of our contract with them, that I'd be able to meet and actually talk to in person and meet in person, start creating those relationships. It's a relationship business, and I kind of talked about this last time. You create these relationships, you start, and it's a networking thing, right? And I know tons of companies, I know tons of businesses, but these guys, but I'm not these guys, right? I don't have the experience that these guys have. I don't have the EDC experience that they have. I don't have the contacts that they have, because most of the people I know are mom and pops, right? We want some of those. We want mom and pops.
Yeah.
But you have to have some anchors too. And we were talking, and their minds are already spinning 1,000,000 miles an hour. They've already come up with some great ideas that they probably shouldn't have even had to give us yet, because we haven't paid them yet. And he's just waiting. He's waiting for that paperwork to be signed, and he's already about ready to make the phone calls. So, I like that, because he was already, they've already shown a vested interest, and I really like that. And you know how consultants are too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
you go in and, okay, yeah, here, you need to do this, and you hand them the paper, and then you assume they're going to do it. But these guys actually, I mean, they're there holding your hand the whole way, and that's what I like, because we're all busy people. If somebody does that and drops in our lap to do, we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I really like these guys, because they're gonna take us to the finish line versus depending on us to do it.
Well, I didn't finish what I was doing earlier with contract. When I do a consulting job and I do make my recommendations, I gave them 2 options. Either you do it or hire me to continue. See, so type thing. So that was the other part.
Well, I
Right.
think in this-
And they're, sorry, and I know what he says, 87% retention. So you can retain them still or not. I mean, and that's, I asked him how many cities re-up with you guys, or do they come to you for a year and then do they call you back 5 years from now with more help on another project? And he says a little bit of both. And so, and the person that referred us, they use them kind of, they're not on a constant basis with them. So they use them for a year, get something filled that they want to get filled. Huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I I was going to say, in this case, I think the deliverables that you're looking for are, retailers coming to our area. And, obviously, we can't guarantee that. They can't guarantee that, but they have had a lot of success in areas around us that we can look to for, an example of what they have been able to achieve.
Like we're talking about, doing a console for the quarry, how about, is there some point we need an economic development, committee of some sort, to help not just you two working on it, but other people on that? I know other cities have corporations and all that, but we don't have anything. That's probably what hurting us. Now, you said also 15 years behind, yeah, but we only got the sewer line, 3-4 years ago? We actually can start doing something like this, so, yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's what attracted me to these guys too, because we don't have an economic development
Yeah.
corporation. It's like, man, that's, like we were talking about with Jill earlier, you have a person in your corner that knows what they're doing, right? And I think that's just, they're filling a gap that I think we really need.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, Kelly, I think it's a good idea. I mean, I think I agree with some of the things that you're saying as far as the business development. We've talked about that. I think having them to help would be a great thing. My only concern is that we're going to have, I kind of wanted to wait for a new city manager to be in that place, because to me, the city manager is the one that leads the economic development of the city, and I'd like to have their input. We're only about a couple of months away from hiring a new city manager, and I don't think there needs to be a rush on this. I feel like we're rushing a lot of things, and I know we've had to wait on some things, but I always know that what's the saying? All good things comes to those who wait. So I think we're unique as a city, and I just didn't like the fact that they told us, like what Lisa was saying, is that there's no guarantees they're going to give us anything. So my concern is, again, looking at from the taxpayer side, is even though I know we budgeted for it, I'd like to see something deliverable at the end. That's kind of what we were talking with Jill about. I think we all can agree, not trying to go back and forth, but that there's something that's going to come out of the hiring, not just we're hiring them because they provide us with a special expertise or what you would call that. So that's just my thing, is that I think it's a great idea. I just think I'd like to wait for our new city manager to be in place to kind of guide us on this, since that's what we're looking at, somebody to be in that position to do. Because I agree with y'all. I'm not qualified to, none of us on this committee are qualified, or this council, to bring in businesses and do all that. Even though I know you have your own business, you're probably more qualified than a lot of us here. That's just the way I feel about it. I don't think it's a bad idea. I just don't know what the rush is without us having a city manager in place. And we're only a month or two away from having a new city manager. That's my 2 cents, so.
Yeah, that's a valid point. So we've been working on it for 3 months now, so it's not being rushed. The other thing is, so when I talked about this a little bit at the last meeting, is, when we're also being interviewed by our future city manager, right? And they want to, and if I'm an incoming person, I'm applying for our position, I want to look at what do they have in place? Are they setting me up for success as well, right? Am I walking into something that could be a nightmare, or am I walking into something that, okay, I see the direction, I know where they want to go, and I'm down with that. And so that's my rebuttal for that, because I would want to know, and I would want that in place, and I'd feel confident knowing that that's in place, because I can pick right up once I assume that position, assume that role. So speaking from somebody that would, yeah.
Okay, my comments on this. Everybody's got good points. Actually, that's usually the case up here. The first thought that came to my mind is what Brian said with a new city manager coming in, and I'd like the idea to have it in place, but do we need to have them start providing deliverables before we get a new city manager? Hire these guys and go, look, you start deliverables in the 1st of March. Right as the new city manager comes in, we've got the mechanisms in place. Boom, get the new guy, girl, whoever it's going to be in here, and we get everything meshed together and we start taking deliverables and working it together. Is that a viable option?
Right,
And I'm seriously asking that question. I'm going, because I don't know. It's,
I'm trying to keep my
we-
voice
we've got the contract on the books here, but, you know, what if we put a start date on it of 1 March? Is that a legal option?
Yeah, so
Yeah, it certainly would be. That would just be a conversation with Retail Coach about what their comfortability is for that. But there wouldn't be any legal reason to not be able to do that.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you, that boxes Kelly's attendance at this conference out, which happens
crap,
at
you're
the
right.
end of the month.
Okay.
And I would say, if you look at the project deliverables, this first 30 days, this is mostly analysis. This is them
Yeah.
putting together, you know, the analytics, you know, so
Okay.
if we give them those 30 days to do these demographic, psychographic profiles, the demand analysis, all of those things, those are in place, you know, about the time a city manager starts. And I'm with Kelly, you know, if I'm a city manager and I'm gonna walk in here and I know I've got X, you know, Y, and Z to accomplish, I would be happy to have a blueprint like that in place from a reputable company that has worked with cities in our area. You know, and I guess Megan Santee is not here today, but she also has worked with the Retail Coach before. And and
Okay.
she highly recommended, you know, Aaron Farmer, and has worked with him and, you know, feels confident in, you know, but it's,
No,
so,
thanks-
I mean, I
Thanks for
think
reminding me
there's-
about that conference. It's, I mean, it's literally
Right.
the
I
end of
mean,
the
I
month.
just- I
so
don't know how many-
We do have a time, kind of a time limit on this.
I mean, we can't
make
just
that
keep,
conference.
it's at the end
It's
of
January
January.
29th.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
just kicking the can down the road isn't gonna
No, that,
advance us.
that doesn't help then.
Right.
Correct. Which, there's another part that goes into this, Nancy, about funding for sending a council member. I don't know if we address that separately, or if that's part of this.
We budget for training for staff as well as council members, plus we also, and we've got money in that budget, we also have a line item that's council projects, and there's money
Okay.
in that
So
line
Kelly and I
item as
have
well.
crunched those numbers. And the staff admin training budget has 6,000 in it, and the council events budget has 4,000 in it, so there's 10,000 in there. And we've broke down gas, hotel, the convention fees, food, you know, parking, and it's probably gonna be about between $2,500 and, you know, $1,000. You know, so we broke. I'm sorry?
We've got the money to
2,500
cover
and
that.
three.
Yeah, 2,503,
Okay.
sorry. So, I mean, we took a good look at that and made sure it was doable.
Okay, yeah, and thanks for reminding me about that thing at the end of the month. That had completely slipped my brain until you brought it up, and then I realized we also have to talk about funding for a council member, presumably Kelly, to go. If we've got it in the budget, then I'm assuming we don't have to bring that up as an actual
No.
extra item, other than we all say it's
No.
okay.
Still time to get registered?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So it sounds to me like we need to make a decision on this contract, and it's not one that can wait because of this convention. And what I read up on the convention, it seems to be, it's a really good place to get to know people. It's your typical convention. You get to know people, you make contacts. It's, you can never place a value on those contacts. You just, you can't do it. And in this case, I think the term invaluable would come up in my mind, so.
Yeah, if
Does
this
any-
conference was in March or April, I would have no
Right.
problem with putting it off till then.
And they only do it once a year, I'm sure?
Yes, once a year.
Okay,
It's in Dallas, so.
okay. Does anybody else have any other inputs? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the agreement between the City of Garden Ridge and the Retail Coach?
I move to approve the agreement between the City of Garden Ridge and Retail Coach.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Are there any further discussions? All in favor?
Nay.
Okay. And this is one of those where I don't even know if I vote as the mayor or a city councilman, or
You get to vote.
I vote as the council member? Okay, I voted aye then. I'll say it. So we've got 4 for it, 1 against. The motion passes. Okay, moving on to item C, City of Garden Ridge 2025 Master Calendar. Nancy again.
Okay. I'm making notes from our motion. Okay. The idea of a master calendar was brought forward to us by Cindy. I think it's a great idea. We have a lot of activities that do go on in the city, not only council meetings, planning and zoning, water commission, court. We've got dumpsters twice a month, or actually 4 days a month. 2 weekends a month. I'm sorry. We've got early voting periods. We've got a lot that goes on in the city. And we thought this, Mark brings down forward all the holidays and city office closures, all of our special events. This is just a go-to place to see what's going on in the city, not only for staff, but for our residents. It will be published on our city website. This locks down dates for the city. Highly recommend that the council begin with approval of if y'all so choose to approve the 2025 calendar, that this be a process that is approved, a calendar that is approved every year. Now, we do understand that, there may be times that we have to move meetings, but, those can be adjusted. That's just something that goes with, it's just fluid. But this pretty much locks down the city's calendar. What I'm trying to say, Kelly, is if something comes up, perhaps we don't have a quorum, but we do have business and we have to move a meeting to another date. This lets us know when those dates are available.
Okay, council discussion. I'll start with Brian.
So Nancy, would this be, I guess, on the website? Is that what that would be?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll put it on the website. All of the staff will have it. All the department heads will have it. This is the calendar we're pretty much going to live by.
Okay, thank you.
Jesse.
Well, about potential changes, because I've been talking to Stephen about bulk dumpsters, about making some changes there, and of course, this is already out. We're running a little late on that. The thought there was to eliminate Sunday work and move it to Friday. That way you don't have to working on Sunday for employees.
Those things can always be amended
That's
throughout
okay.
the year.
Okay, so that's something.
If we need to amend this calendar, then we can amend this calendar.
Okay, so I'll leave Stephen some opportunities there. Okay, thank you.
This is what we're proposing we're starting the year with for 25.
Kelly.
Yeah, I looked it over earlier, so I like it. I'm fine with it.
All right, Lisa.
I think it's great. I think it's a great idea, Cindy.
Thank you.
It's going to be a tough one here then, because I think it's a no-brainer. It's a baseline to work off of. Every plan is something you deviate from, but it gives you a framework to work from. This is our plan for the next 12 months. It's perfect. So unless we have any other discussions from anybody, can I get a motion to pass the 2025 master calendar?
Make a motion to approve the master calendar for 2025.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Lisa. Any further discussion? Nothing. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? It passes unanimously. City Council discussions. Microphone, Todd. Item D, City Council agenda item for City Council projects. It's a council discussion about that. I thought, Jesse, you had a few inputs on that one?
Yeah, one thing I want to just mainly talk about, maybe streamlining the agenda and maybe help also with minutes, keeping them down and keeping the discussions in a timely manner. So one item, like I already talked about, being the council liaison to the Water Commission. Instead of covering it later on in the project agenda, I covered my report under utilities. We can cover it there. So my proposal there is to remove it from that item going forward. So that's one item. The other item I was thinking about was the, council, liaison to Comal ISD. Again, we have Comal ISD under section, in the agenda 13. So could we cover it there? If you need a report, fine. If you don't have another report. I already have moved AMPO to there also to eliminate it from here. So just throwing ideas out to how do we streamline this. The other point I wanted to make, so that's up to y'all, you and Brian, what you want to do there. The other thing is about, if we move the liaisons from here, is where do we have it documented? Who are the council liaisons to something? And I know City of Shirts has it published, I think they have it in their agenda, but I don't want it in the agenda. I think we can have it on the webpage, that we have council assignments, basically, what are you a member of, what are you a liaison to, things like that. So we don't have to worry about it. Because I think it's important that we track what do we do, right? And our residents know what we're doing. So we can, I'll work with Marissa and Cindy on how to do that. The other part I wanted to mention was on here is ordinance, our Code of Ethics Ordinance 232, Section 4.2 says that, we have to worry about our length of comments and, and it has a thing about keeping it under 5 minutes. So just to keep it, short, concise, and just make a report. I think we mostly do that. I just think we just wanted to highlight that part. So again, that's all I wanted to cover. Any comments or thoughts on that? Anybody feel okay with what I just did with mine? So
you're talking about item 10, the updates
Yeah.
section?
Yeah,
in
update section, yeah.
specific. Yeah, and there is some duplication in there, because Kamal
Yeah.
ISD appears there, and it also appears up on
That's what
item
that-
10,
that-
appears in 13 and 10, for example. One of the ways we probably could address this is as we need to add things, perhaps, if we get something going with a Quarry Advisory Committee, commission, whatever we want to call it, probably committee or Quarry Advisory Group or something like that, and different legal definitions, we'll have to talk to legal about how that works. Add it to the agenda for the next month's meeting, as opposed to having this constant, Swinton Arvidsson talking aggregate productions, growth and impact, Swinton Erickson, economic development, Smith and Swint. We've already kind of hit the growth and economic development when we talked about the contract agreement for the retail coach. It's already in the main agenda, so we're duplicating things in here.
Yeah, if
You
have
do?
stuff, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But like the Quarry, if you do have a Quarry Council, it could go under the section on city commissions and committees also. You can put that, add that item to
And
that
then
list.
talk about it at that point.
Because you would want a report from them on a basis, I would think.
And this can keep changing as we move along here.
Yeah.
We kind of drive what we talk about, because it's our working meeting. It's not a public forum for discussion. It's a working meeting. So, anybody else have any thoughts on what Jesse was talking about, or the agenda items for city council projects, how we want to move that around? Obviously, we're not going to cut it out today because it's on the agenda.
Yeah, just the two that I was talking about, that's the only ones I was,
Okay,
only one I was interested in.
okay. I kind of took it broader than that, but
We could, I mean,
it's,
but, unless somebody else wants to.
yeah. Okay, that sounds good. Any other thoughts, inputs, Brian?
I think it's a great idea. I think he's right on that. I'd like to
Okay.
I think we all can agree that to be efficient and to get rid of the duplicity. But yeah, I support that change.
Okay. Item E, status of recruiting process for city manager and provide direction to staff as needed. I don't know that we have any real direction for them other than what came out in executive session, but feel free to add anything if anybody's got anything. Okay. Then we're going to move on from item E, and we're going to move to 10, update city council projects. 1, aggregate APO impacting Garden Ridge, Swinton, Arvidsson, and we kind of talked about this a bunch already with Jill Shackelford's stuff, but if we got anything else to add, let's do it.
So I'll keep it short. I did want to give everybody an update on a meeting I had about the truck route. Hank attended, as well as AMPO, Comal ISD, their Director of Transportation attended. David Grzinski, our CISD board member, attended. City of Shirts was there with Brian James, their Deputy City Manager, is that the correct title? As well as one of their police officers. We also had TxDOT. It was the meeting took place at the TxDOT facility out in New Braunfels. Donna Campbell's office also sent a letter of support. Long story short, it's complicated, right? So the next, we talked about what the real issues are. Talked about cutting down 482 to I-35. I expressed some concerns if we made that a truck route, that's a four-way stop there. There's no signal there. It's not signaled. So, you end up with a backup of trucks. Shirts expressed concern that their emergency services are right there by 482. We all expressed concerns about the amount of aggregate on the roads that shouldn't be there. I mean, they are not supposed to track aggregate off of the quarry, out of the quarry. Kamala, or the Director of Transportation, I don't know if y'all know, they've got a bus barn up there. And she said that they have more broken windshields and windows than, of course, than any other place. It's kind of a constant problem for them. So where we landed was that as a group, we are going to draft a letter, and this may be, I'll have to think about the timing of this as we go forward with Jill, draft a letter to the quarries in that area about the aggregate on the roads. And that may be just another pressure point, from a larger group than that may participate in a quarry kind of council or commission. The other thing that I was excited about, Sonia Jimenez was there with AMPO, and she is going to try to get a corridor study of that area added to a project that they are already working on. So that would give us some, vital information that we need about the state of the roads and the traffic and, what we can and cannot do, all those kinds of different ideas. So she needed to take about a month for that, so we still don't have an answer on that. And she's also acting as she's the acting deputy director at AMPO right now. So she's busy. So, again, I'll just keep pushing forward, keep looking for ideas, keep looking for solutions. We got to fix that problem for sure. So I'll stop there on quarry stuff.
No, that's actually great work, Lisa. We've got to keep pushing on this stuff. And like we talked about earlier with Jill, we got to work with the quarries and come up with solutions that work for everybody, not just one group. And that sounds like we're going down that path. Excellent. So on to item number 2. Lisa, you're still up, and obviously Rob's not here. So mitigation of growth and encroachment impacts on Garden Ridge.
I don't have anything on that this month.
Okay, nothing to report. Economic development, we kind of talked about that one a bunch. You guys got anything else you want to add between Kelly and Lisa?
So we've got a meeting upcoming. We were supposed to have it over Christmas break, and that fell through. My fault. So we're meeting with a group of people again, and this is a group of people I met with a while back, and this feeds into kind of the retail coach thing. So they want to know, what's our vision? What do we want here? And they're trying to decide, are they going to keep their land and try to develop it, or are they going to sell it, kind of thing. So, and if so, who do we want to attract? So we'll keep you updated on that.
Also, the good news about passing that contract is during phase 1, Retail Coach meets with stakeholders in the community. So now we can fold them in, and I think that will help our citizens, get more ideas and a better sense of direction than just Kelly and I could give them. So.
Sounds good. Water companies, Jesse, you got anything you want to add, or you covered it earlier? All right, you talked about that. We got that out of there. Brian, do you have anything with Comal ISD?
Yeah,
I do not, as I've been out of town for the
I know.
last month.
Just that the Comal ISD at their last meeting, the board notes, the Board of Trustees recognized about 60 students during their monthly meeting. They included 3 artists who won the district's 2nd annual Christmas card contest, 3 high school marching bands which qualified for state, 2 students who were selected for the year's all-state jazz band, as well as cross-country state qualifiers from 3 high schools. A few highlights: the honorees were Davenport High School Wolf Band, which brought home the bronze medal at the UIL 4A State Marching Contest in its 3rd consecutive year to advance to that level, and the first ever Smithson Valley High School Girls Cross Country UIL State Championship team. They also recognized 2 Comal ISD athletic coaches, Smithson Valley's high school baseball coach, Chad Cole, for earning his 400th career win on March the 8th, and Canyon Lake High School athletic director and head football coach Sam Parker. He was recognized for his 100th career win on November the 8th. Last couple of things, ISD bond, Comal ISD bond and capital improvement update. The Board of Trustees was presented with an update on bond 2021 and bond 2023 from the Construction and Planning Department, and a few of the highlights include progress on reinvestment projects at Canyon High School, including drainage and driveway improvements and tennis court replacement. Additional active construction projects include the following improvements: the press box at Canyon Lake High School to be installed April of 2025, and a batting cage canopy to be completed by the first day of baseball season. Bleacher expansions at Davenport High School, materials delivered and construction underway. Gymnasium LED upgrade at Smithson Valley High School, Canyon Lake High School, and Canyon Middle School, lights ordered and installation in progress. And last, parking lot LED lighting upgrades at Bill Brown Elementary School, that's in progress. And that's all I have.
That sounds good. Moving along, item 11, discussion of future agenda items. Does anybody have anything they want to add?
Yes, sir.
Say for February. All right, Jesse, hit it.
So I'd like to have a discussion on developing a capital improvement plan. So we'll start looking at some long-term, especially with Nancy leaving, just to have a discussion on that. So anyway, that's just for discussion only. Next month, yeah, start that. The other thing is I'd like to have there's been some talked about ethics, so I'd like to have a discussion on council role with respect to the Code of Ethics Ordinance 232 and the Home Rule Charter.
Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add? That sounds like two things to add for February's agenda. Okay. I'm not hearing anything else. We're going to move on to item 12. Or Kelly, do you have something? No, you're good. Okay. Move on to item 12, citizen comment period. It's limited to 20 minutes. You don't need to sign up, but you must sign in with the city secretary after you speak. You're limited to 2 minutes. You can't talk on the same topic if you spoke in the first one, but nobody spoke, so we don't have to worry about that. Turn on your microphone before speaking. State your name and address before your comments begin. Do we have anybody out in the citizenry, all 3 people in the audience, do they have anything they want to say? Nobody wants to come up and talk, so we'll move on from the citizens' comment period to item 13, reports and comments from the mayor and city council members. Does anybody have anything to add to any of these events that are listed on here?
No.
Brian?
No, sir, thank you.
Jesse?
100 Club of Comal County has their annual dinner scheduled for April 8th as one of the biggest part of their fundraiser besides your membership. Members will be receiving their invitation letter here in the next month. If you're not a member and interested in going, let me know through Marissa or Cindy. And that's all on that one. TxDOT, I facilitated a discussion between Trophy Oaks, HOA. They're replacing their fence along 3009, almost 2,000 feet. So I had facilitated a discussion between them and TxDOT, and they're ready to go now. TxDOT, helped them out and covered anything. They also wanted to know if TxDOT needed to acquire property, what happens with the fence, and TxDOT will cover that, the cost of the fence. So anyway, they're happy, everything's good, proceeding well on that, so.
Yes, Tri-County Chamber update. All right, so some of you may or may not know, our beloved director, Mindy, resigned. And had a really good opportunity she could not pass up. But as actually one of our members of Tri-County and John Sand Home Health, and they have blown up beyond belief, and Mindy decided to jump on and help her out and continue to grow her business. So Kevin Hattis is our interim. A lot of you know him. So he's our interim, and then later this week we'll be putting out a search for our new director. So.
Marissa just know, poor guy. Right about Kevin. It's a lot to take on.
Yeah. First Tri-County Chamber Luncheon of the year will be Tuesday the 14th at CPS Energy. And the mixer will be January 23rd, 5:30 at 1908. Which is Jamie and Liz's place. A lot of you guys have met them at First Fridays. They've come to support our First Fridays a lot, so hopefully we can go over and help support them. And then save the date, April 16th golf tournament at TPC San Antonio. That's a great one. So if we've got any golfers out there that want to jump on, or anybody wants to get on a team with me, let me know. It's a very fun tournament, and you get to golf right before it's right around the Texas Open. So they've got it all looking pretty awesome. So that's all I've got.
Okay, I don't have anything to add this month. We do have an executive session update, I believe. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we'll move on to item 14, executive session. The City Council will recess its open meeting and reconvene in closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.0711, pending or contemplated litigation, and 551.0712, consultation with City Attorney on the following items. Item 1, petition for declaratory judgment, Eric Fisher versus the City of Garden Ridge. cause number C 2024-1164 Bravo. Item 2, notice of claim letter pursuant to Texas Tort Claims Act, Craig Dillard versus the City of Garden Ridge, cause number C 2024-1193 Echo. And item 3, notice of claim letter for payment of invoice from We Love Trees. How long does everybody need for a little break? Okay, let's adjourn from regular session now and come back at 7:46 or so. That's 5 minutes, but if it's a little later than that, that's okay too. With that, we are going to executive session.
I just know it's getting cold because my knee's telling me. All my old injuries, my scars are bothering me, my knees. All my old Army stuff comes back to haunt me when the weather starts getting cold. I sat here and waited for you, just for you.
I appreciate that, Chief.
Gotta make it feel good.
Yeah.
I borrowed that. We're good. We're good, we're back on? Okay. The city council is reconvening into regular session. Microphone. The city council is reconvening into regular session at 8:08. We had no items to discuss coming out of executive session. That being said, there are no further business for the city council the city council meeting is adjourned at 8:08. Let's all go home.
Good job.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Let's go.